everybody! I'm back again for another reading of Oculum. It's our Tween the Pages book, and I'm doing something a little bit sneaky. I am pre-recording this reading for you all because I am actually away today. I'm not here. I'm recording this so that when I'm gone, you still have a part of Oculum that you can listen to, which is really cool. Then you don't have to fall behind, and we can keep up and get even closer to the end of the book. We were thinking about maybe skipping a week of our readings, but we're just at such an exciting part. I thought we might as well keep reading so we can all get to the end of this really exciting book. Now, before I start reading today, I want to tell you about what our activity is going to be. And I know I usually do this at the end, but something really cool has happened. And the author of Oculum has been talking to me through messages, and she said that if any of you have a question for her, or a question about the story, or something interesting you want to ask her about writing a book, that you can write down a question. You could write it on the comments of this video. You could email it to me. My email is children@shelbournelibrary.ca, and I'm sure your parents could help you send me an email. But yeah, I want you to think of some questions to ask the author of Oculum. How cool is that? We get to actually have a conversation with the lady who wrote this book. Isn't that amazing? So yeah, I thought we could do that as our activity for this week. I'm excited to hear what questions you guys think of. And with that, I think we'll start reading. We ended reading with Miranda 1. And Miranda 1 was sneaking all around the town. She stole a ladder. She stole shears. And shears are just like a certain kind of scissors. She stole William 1's clothes. She took the map from in his house that he told her about. And now she has hidden a bunch of food and bandages that she's tying into a really long rope. So we don't really know what is happening and what she's going to do with all of this stuff, but we know that she's collecting a bunch of supplies. Alrighty. But we're going to start with Manfred. And Manfred and Cranker are following the one-eyed dog. The dog slips away over the rubble and we follow. He keeps just out of range of Cranker's slingshot, and every once in a while we don't see him, and I worry that we've lost him. But right about then, he turns up over the top of an overturned bus or a huge busted chunk of road and looks at me. And then we head his way again until he disappears. I don't know where he's taking us, but it's clear we have got to follow. Sorry, guys. After about an hour, we're within a slingshot of the dome. Up close, it's like a giant pearl stuck in the busted city. We know the top is open because we've seen it open 2 nights ago, and we haven't heard it close yet. But this close, we can't see it. It's too far above us, straight up. Hey, I don't know if any of you have heard of the Sky Dome before. It's in Toronto, and it's right beside the CN Tower. Actually, it's called the Rogers Centre. Sorry, a long time ago, it used to be called the Sky Dome, but now it's called the Rogers Centre, and it's right beside the CN Tower. And it is this big, giant dome. I'm sure you've seen pictures of it. And people play baseball games and things like that in there. But the top of the dome, when it's nice weather, opens up. And that's kind of like what they're talking about with Oculum. Oculum is a big, giant dome, but instead of opening like the Sky Dome where the sides all come apart, it opens in a big circle on top. Pretty cool, right? Every time I read this book and they talk about Oculum, I think about the Sky Dome. The whole city being in the Sky Dome. The dome shoots into the sky, a beautiful magic pearl. Now the dog is nowhere in sight, but he brought us to a place where the rubble is thinner, and there's a kind of pathway where you can walk safer and down. Cranker and me head down into this pile when he stops me. He points. The dog is lying at the feet of a figure. There's a man in the rubble, or really a man made out of all the rubble and junk. Someone's made a man out of garbage, and a pretty good likeness, too. He has a head, a torso, arms, and legs. He's tall, way over our heads, and he wears a crown of letters from the black boxes. As soon as the dog sees that we found the man made of old and begone's garbage, he takes off at a run. He slinks over a distant pile of garbage and then another farther away, smaller and smaller, but doesn't look back. I can't help thinking he brought us where he wanted. He brought us to this crowned figure of garbage. The dog's weird, Cranker says. Then he tries to read the crown. What ill, he starts. William won, it says. I hurry him along. I'm better at letters than Cranker. He looks at me with wonder. What the heck's William won? In all the piles of garbage and rubble and destruction we've seen in the city, it's all been random. Broken signposts, busted half words on buses, or big boards with words and faded letters on them for stuff we don't understand. Like giant ladies with long curls and something called hair color, or stuff for teeth called toothpaste, or men and women with huge faces talking about something called insurance. These images are broke, half there and buried deep and faded so much that we only spy a face or a word down in the garbage piles below us. We walk over them and under them, and at first we read them, but after a while they're so common that we stop. It's just more old and begone's junk. But this figure is a thing made here, the first sign of a living human in all the waste, and someone made him and crowned him William I. It's strange. Who made it and why? We look at each other, but Cranker is braver than me, or sometimes I wonder if he's just got less imagination of all the bad things. Anyways, he smiles. Since there's an adventure here, he can tell. Then he heads down into the well of garbage ahead of me. I hear him shout, and I run to catch up. There's the dome! Right there! We walk up and we both touch it and grin at each other. It's warm from the sunlight, and we lean against it and laugh. We bang against it. We look into it, but we can't see inside. Cranker walks a little out of sight. I'll be jiggered, he shouts. I run up. There's a door built against the wall. It's marked out in black boxes. On the ground in front of the door, it says in the same letters as the crowned garbage man, William I was here. There's deep, muddy footprints and handprints beside it, and Cranker and me put our feet into the prints. Mine are bigger. The Cranker's are about the same size. There's a muddy handprints all over the glass, and footprints even outlined, and even a face outlined in mud. Cranker and me add tiny bits of water to the dried mud and make our own muddy handprints and footprints and face prints alongside. I take out the charcoal and I write on the dome, man was here. There's words in the mud on the door too. W1's door. Cranker looks at me. You know, this mud message couldn't be too old. The last black rain would wash it off. I nod. He's right. He's not great with letters and numbers, but Cranker is plenty smart. Wise, Granny calls him. Not more than a week old, he adds. Or less. So who's William I then? It's W1, I ask. And Cranker thinks. Well, we know he's like us, with feet and hands the same size. And his name must be William I. Cranker points at the message on the ground. And he made his own image up there. He points all the way over to the garbage king. And this here says it's a door, W1's door, outlined in garbage. It's a doorway, I say. I get a little shot of nerves up my back, through my neck and up to my hair. I can see Cranker feels the same way. Doors was meant to be open, right, man? He grins at me, and we both start booting and hammering on that door like no tomorrow. Truth is, except for the outline of black boxes, the word door, and a little mud, there's no door that we can see. It's just more domed glass, pearly and hard as nails reaching into the sky. What do you think will happen if Cranker and Man break all the way into Oculum? Because they're banging on where the door that William I came out of is. And we still don't know where William I has gone. We throw chunks of busted up road or whatever we can find at the sweet spot between the black box outline of a door. But there's no dent, not even a mark. We keep at it. We scare up a load of fat rats who scurry off surprised. Soon, though, we tire, and then Cranker gets an idea. He says to think of a blacksmith, the man who fixed Nellie's horseshoe a few nights back. The blacksmith used 2 pieces of metal to make the horseshoe fit right, and one he held and one he banged on. But he heated it up, I added. We can't heat it up. No, not heat it up, but throw 2 rocks at the same place at the same time, he says. And I see what he means. He gets me to draw a circle in charcoal in the middle of the doorway, and we spend the next hour trying to hit the circle at the same time with 2 chunks of rock, which does nothing. Finally, Cranker gets mad, takes out his slingshot and starts pinging huge rocks as big as he can shoot at the door. Then he picks up a piece of metal and he shoots that. I find a good spot above the door on a flat pile of rock, and I rain down metal and chunks of road right at the same spot. And then it happens. Pure luck or timing or just the right amount of both a shot piece of metal and my giant boulder ramming it home. But suddenly, we hear a tiny creak, and we both stop and run forward. Somehow, there's the piece of metal that Cranker shot stuck in the glass in the center of the door. It's not very big, but it's stuck all right. He shot the hard, raggedy piece of shiny metal, and in perfect timing, my boulder rammed it home. We look at it, proud for a minute. We slap hands and do a little dance around the door. We did it! The piece of metal is sliced right into the door, about the length of my finger. We're impressed that we managed this. Can't fault us for trying. We bang on the sliver of metal with rocks and sticks for a while, but that does nothing. After a while, the stuck piece of metal seems like enough and as close to opening the door as we will get. And as we stare into the glass, feeling proud and brave, a weird figure appears on the other side of the door. I jump back. It's slithery and monster-looking, and scary as anything I ever seen. "What's that?" I shout, and Cranker comes to look. "Save us, it's a ghost!" Cranker shouts, and we both run off a little. The strange ghost thing looks monstrous on the other side of the glass. It floats and shimmers, stretches and shrinks, with 2 huge staring eyes leaping out of it. We grab our packs and run farther off, but when we look back, the ghostly figure is gone. What do you think was on the other side? Looking from the inside of the dome. I don't think it was actually that scary. I think it was probably like a sentry or Regulus or maybe a person looking through the door, but their shape got all bent because of how the dome is shaped. I don't think it was actually a monster or a ghost. We eat quick. A little of Granny's dried meat and a few bites of bread. I'm thirsty as anything, but only allow myself 2 small mouthfuls of water, enough to wet my tongue. The sun is raging down now. It's mid-afternoon, and we should go back the way we come and find shelter. Plus, I don't want to stay here another second with the ghost thing on the other side of the glass. Before we go, Cranker goes back to the door, picks up another huge rock and rams it onto the stuck piece of metal a few times, and then he calls me over. "Look," he says, pointing. I don't want to get near the door again, but I swallow my fear and go look. Now there's a crack in the glass, a small one, starting around our stuck piece of metal. It runs upward and out about a hand's breadth. I raise my eyebrows. "We did that? Made that crack?" Cranker nods. "We did. Come on, let's go." We take one last look at the door, at our piece of shiny metal lodged there, and then we turn away. There's no more phantom face on the other side peering back at us. I think about that face, the stuck piece of metal, and the crack all the way back to the porch that we slept in the night before. I don't say it to cranker, but I think that crack we made in the door is deep, deeper than it looked at first glance. Now we're over with Miranda 1. Oh, sorry. I am sweating, cloaked and bundled as I am. I stand at the front of the square in the place of honor at the head of almost 1,000 Oculum dwellers. William, too, stands beside me. All mothers are with us, and there are sentries everywhere, some I've never seen before, a style that seems outdated, standing along the edge of the crowd. Oculum is open, and the early twilight is beautiful. It's a gorgeous night, and I am a bulky, sweating liar. I have my cloak done tightly over my clothes, or William I's pants and shirt, and over my bulging satchel and the tree keeper's rope ladder and linen bandages. I also have my first satchel under my cloak, the satchel I used when I was a younger child, and it is bulging with apples, peaches, dried cherries, and a sealed jar of water. One pocket has garden shears in it, and the other a bag of apple seeds, and inside my cloak, in the long pocket, is William I's map of Oculum. It's all I have of my friend until I find him again, and I will find him. I must look enormously lumpy and strange to everyone, but thankfully no one has come too close to me. They're giving me space in my grief, or perhaps they're simply too afraid to come near. All but Mother, who has clucked in word and taken care of me all day. We left the house together, and she did not ask what I was hiding under my cloak, although she surely noticed. Instead, she took me by the arm, and we walked together to the square. She's standing beside me now, next to Mother of William II and William II himself. They both look uncomfortable wearing the false red W1 on their armbands. The Senate clock gently chimes 7 bells, and Regulus strides across the stage that has been hastily built for this occasion. Behind him is an enormous picture of William I, the real one, the likeness from the poster that was hanging on the side post in the common. I suddenly have a longing to see William I, and the thought of what I'm about to do makes my knees weak. "Are you all right, Miranda, my darling?" Mother whispers. "Yes, Mother, I'm fine," I lie. Regulus takes his place on the stage, and there's a polite applause, and then he begins to speak. He does have fine elocution and a deep, commanding voice. "My dear children of Oculum, today is a terribly sad day, for today we must say goodbye to our oldest, dearest boy, William I." He stops for effect, and the crowd murmurs quietly, "Yes, yes," they say, "William I has died." The children nod and look at each other and at their mothers. I stare straight ahead. Regulus goes on. "Now, we do not understand death or what it is to have died, but I tell you today that William I will not die if we remember him as he lived, with our respect. He will live on in our hearts." "Yes, yes," the crowd murmurs. "He will live on in our hearts." I take a deep breath and begin my bid for freedom. I step forward and then take 2 more steps, and then slowly, regally, I walk up the stairs to share the stage with Regulus. He has not asked me to do this, but I am grieving. I am not to be denied. I hope that Regulus will feel as everyone else has felt for 2 days, and not question me. He's surprised as I step onto the stage, but he smiles and turns back to the crowd. "Ah, dear Miranda I has come to share her grief with us. How wonderful!" I am about to speak when I realize that my mother has followed me up the ramp and onto the stage. I was not expecting this, but I will have to improvise. "Thank you, Regulus," I say calmly, looking over the sea of children with their trusting faces turned toward me. "Children of Oculum," I say in my most mature Miranda I voice, "I am here to tell you that William I is not dead. He has escaped Oculum through a door in the seed park. He's outside, and outside is real." I scream this as loudly as I can, and I turn and run off the stage and disappear into the Senate. There is a roar behind me, and I can hear the almost 1,000 voices cry out. I run across the atrium and leap up the stairs to Regulus's chair. I only have a moment, and I hear Regulus yell at everyone to be quiet, and then the Senate doors bang open behind me. Regulus and Mother burst into the atrium. Regulus runs on his metallic feet, but Mother is faster on wheels and spins like a whirlwind in my direction. I've already clambered up onto Regulus's chair at the bottom of the oculum arm, and I reach as high as I can and pull myself up onto the first platform, over the giant bolts, and up to the base of the mighty machine. Up! Up! Everything is much, much bigger from up here, and the ground is much, much farther away. I gulp and step onto the first rim of the arm, reaching into the sky, and immediately I slip. I quickly climb back on, but my shoes slip off again. I will have to climb barefoot. Regulus runs up the stairs, and Mother speeds up the ramp, and both reach Regulus's chair. I take off my shoes and throw first one shoe and then the other as hard as I can at Regulus. Both shoes hit him in the head, which surprises him, and he stops to look up at me. Mother is at his side, staring up at me as well. The Senate door bangs open again, and a flood of sentries wheel into the room. "Stop!" Regulus commands, and the sentries all freeze, although I think he was talking to me. Without my shoes, I climb the arm quickly. I climb like I would climb a ladder, hand, foot, and the edges of the massive corkscrew give me enough space to grip. I'm already looking down on them all. I try not to think how far I still have to go up. Regulus walks to his chair and then to the base of the arm. And I forgot one thing about Regulus. Unlike the other caregivers and minders in Oculum, Regulus has legs and feet. He's not on wheels. He is about to climb up after me. I can almost not say this next part, for it nearly makes me fall. When my own dear Mother shoots forward and grabs Regulus in her metallic grip. For a moment, he's surprised, and Mother doesn't hesitate. She plunges her other arm deep into Regulus's chest, and with a wrenching shriek of metal, she tears out his mechanical heart. She crushes his heart to dust beneath her wheels. Regulus slumps to the ground. Regulus is gone. Mother and I each look at each other, and sweetly, so sweetly, she whispers, "Goodbye, Miranda, my darling." And then my mother reaches into her own chest and wrenches out her own mechanical heart. She slumps over Regulus, and in the next second, their two bodies are swarmed by an army of sentries. It will be impossible to get close to the arm with their bodies there. My mother has given me time to climb and escape. "Goodbye, Mother dear," I whisper. My eyes fill with tears, but I have no time for shock or grief. Mother said that she did not think love was so very evil after William I told Regulus that we were in love. I know now that Mother understood love, and she wants me to climb to the sky. I grit my teeth and climb. I cannot fall. I cannot fail. I must make it to the top of the arm. The sentries stare up at me, but none can climb to catch me. Some begin to slowly move the tangled bulk of Mother and Regulus aside. I'm well above them now, hand over hand, climbing the mechanical arm. I reach the top of the Senate building and climb out into the open. The gathered children on the common see me and call out. I can hear their voices, small already from how high up I am. Look, it's Miranda 1. They sound eager, astonished, and I can only hope it's because they want to see me succeed, not because they want to see me fall. Surely this is the most exciting day of their lives. First a death, and now this, the escape of Miranda 1, my bid for freedom. I climb, aware that every eye is upon me. I have been climbing for 5 minutes, and I'm already a quarter of the way to the top of the arm. How like a spider I must look, I think, climbing her web. I can hear children below calling to me or to each other, but most of them are silent. Perhaps they're holding their breath. And then the great arm begins to turn. I gasp and hold on tight for a moment as the machine lurches to life beneath me. This is the closest I've come to falling this whole time. Why didn't I think of this? Of course! The sentries below would turn on the machine and close Oculum. Without Regulus, the sentries have taken longer to think of it than he would have, but that is a small comfort. I do not have much time. The sentries have set the mechanism in motion. I halt for a moment and look down, and have one lifelong question answered. I see now how the arm works. Sentries wheel it open and wheel it closed. They spin in tight circles along the track at the bottom, attached to the arm with a heavy leather belt. Sentries whirl around the base of the arm below me, turning it slowly closed. My mother and Regulus lie in a heap cleared to the side of the track. I put on a burst of speed. I'm halfway to the top, but I can see the great lid, the top of Oculum, already beginning to slowly drop into place. No! I'm not going to fail now. I climb and climb and climb. I think my arms are going to break. The children below call me, but I can't hear their words, just a low murmuring shout of noise, and my name punctuating the wave. Miranda 1! Miranda 1! The creaking arm turns more quickly, and I have to climb faster to keep from falling off, but I keep going. If William 1 can leave this place by walking through a door, then I can leave by climbing into the sky, although I think William 1 had the easier job of it. I'm just a few body lengths from the top now, but the arm drops the great lid of Oculum lower and lower. There's just enough room for me to squeeze through the opening. And I do it! I clamber to the very top of the arm and out onto the curved wall before the arm drops and seals my world shut. Quickly, I take the stolen ladder out from under my cloak and I snap the large hooks into place on the opening. I cling to the ladder and close my eyes. I'm very close to the moving arm. Just a slip would send me under it, where I'd be crushed to death and stuck like a butterfly beneath glass until the next time Oculum was opened. I hang on, and then with a sigh, the great arm shuts Oculum tight, catching the edge of my ladder in the seal. I open one eye and quickly shut it again. I'm outside. There's a terrifying, wide open space all around me and a dizzying openness below. Night is coming, and I am clinging to a ladder attached to the top of the only world I have ever known. I take a deep breath and another. Then I save myself. I kick the treekeeper's ladder over the edge and it clatters open. I hear it bang below me over the curved, smooth wall, farther, farther, and then it stops. I can only hope it goes a long way down. I've climbed the walnut tree with this ladder. It is very, very long, but can it possibly be long enough to reach the ground? The linen bandages that I cut and tied to the bottom of the ladder are on the last rung. I can only hope that they will hold me. I peek for a moment, take a quick look out at the world below me, and gasp. It goes on and on for as far as I can see, and I feel dizzy, sick. My heart hammers in my chest, and I have to lean forward, my forehead against the wall and close my eyes. I think of Mother. I think of William, and I'm calmer, but I can't look out at the vast world again, not yet. I lower myself onto the ladder, and it tests its strength. The ladder holds. Slowly, rung by rung, I begin my curved descent from the top of my world down to whatever fate awaits in the unknown below. Miranda 1 is outside now too! Oh! So, William 1's outside. Miranda 1 is outside. Manfred and Cranker put a crack in the door. All of the kids now know that there's an outside, and they watch Miranda 1 escape. And Regulus and Mother, William 1's mother and Miranda's mother, have all been shut down and their mechanical hearts pulled out. This is crazy. I am going to read one more chapter, I believe, and then that will be all for today. And this chapter is Manfred again. Cranker and me head away from the dome and walk back the way we come, following our charcoal marks through the garbage piles. There's an arrow here on an upside-down bus and my name there on a slab of road brick. We walk for hours thinking about what we've seen. Who was William 1? We think about him and his door, about the mighty dome and the crack we made. As night comes on, we get around the great curve of the dome. There's a noise off in the bricks away from our path. The one-eyed dog pops his head up over the rubble and spies me. He runs onto an upside-down bus in front of us and barks. Awful bold of him. I never heard him bark before. Cranker spies him too. What's his problem, do you suppose? Cranker says. I shrug. Maybe he wants something? Cranker looks up at the sky. The sun's going down. Hey, the dome is closing! He's right. We both stand and watch as the dome lid starts to close. It seems faster closing than when it opened a few nights ago. I want to watch it close, but the dog pops his head up, a little farther this time, and he barks again, and now wags his tail down low and disappears. I'm going to follow him, I say. We got one more day before we're supposed to go back to Granny. Time for another adventure, Cranker says with a grin. We leave our old path, making more marks with the charcoal along a new route. It's easier going. There's less garbage as we get farther from the dome. The overturned buses and cars turn into flat chunks of broken road, and soon we walk through houses again, but we're on the other side of the center of the city, the opposite side from where Granny is. The dog pops its head up now and then to make sure we're still following. The sun dips lower in the sky and then sets. Suddenly the dog does a yip yip, and we see him head back the way we just come. What's wrong with him now? Cranker says. He's about to flare into a foul mood when I stop him. There ahead, near where the dog took off, someone's lying in the road. A body. The person is slumped in a long cloak, and 4 people stand around looking down. The gang of thieves from the gates. I can see the shaved head leader. Cranker ducks behind a house, and I follow. They don't see us. I peek around the house, and it's a boy on the ground. I can see his face now. He's got ginger hair. He's awake, but he's hurt, and his foot's at a funny angle like it's broke. He looks up at the faces above him, and he says something, but I can't make it out. He doesn't look afraid, though. The shaved head thief says, Water? Why did he share water with you? And then he spits at the road. I hear the rest of the gang growl and rumble. They shift a little. Cranker says, Quiet. Man, look at his arm. The boy on the ground has a red armband under his cloak. It says W1 on it, plain as day. W1? I whisper. Cranker nods. William 1? Must be the same boy from the door, Cranker says, a little odd. Or kin, anyway. We gotta do something, I say, but Cranker's already working. He builds in the rubble behind me, lifting rocks and placing them, lifting more, fast and sure. In a moment I see it's a body he's making, like the man out of rubble crowned William 1 back at the dome. He places everything just right, and Cranker's garbage man shapes up quick. What you doing? What you doing? I whisper. Giving us a chance, he says without looking up. I peek around the house again, and the thieves bully William 1 on the ground, but he seems brave. I hear him say, Take it. And then he hands over a book from inside his cloak, but the thieves don't want it. They leaf through the pages, and without looking, sniff it, tear it into shreds, crumple it, and then laugh and mock William 1. Then they toss the ruined book on the road. A few torn pages blow along and away. William 1 watches it fall, but he doesn't speak. The thieves could take whatever they want from him, but they're having too much fun to hurry. One of the girls tugs at William 1's cloak and shrieks. She's found something. She takes a water jug out of his pocket and upends it. Empty, but a glass jug, not broken, is valuable. She slips it into her coat and eyes William 1's other pockets. We gotta help him, I whisper to Cranker, who's still working fast behind me. I want to help William 1, but all I got is a whittling knife, and I have no skill as a fighter. I don't like fighting either. Cranker finishes his garbage man and lights a small fire quick. There's plenty of wood to burn at hand, and he uses the flint Granny gave him, and the spark flares up and the flames catch. He adds another small pile of wood. Soon the thieves are going to notice us. The flames flicker behind the garbage figure, and then I see what Cranker's doing. The flickering image of a tall man appears on the road beside the house. Cranker's made a shadow figure from rubble and fire, and it looks just like a man. Now it's 3 against 4. Go, step out and call them, man, Cranker says, shoving me. I got no time to ask what he thinks he's doing. I stumble out onto the road, and all eyes turn towards me. I stand as tall as I can. Hey, it's that big baby-loving fool from the gates, one of the gang calls. I move into the road and I see that the shadow of the man of rubble looks like a big man standing behind me. The shadow figure flares out into the road and up onto the side of a house. I take a deep breath. What do you want with William One? I call out. I see William One look at me in surprise. He don't know me and I don't know him. But I put my feet into his muddy footprints. I left my mark the same place as he did at the door. I seen his image crowned in the rubble. I know him, know where he's been well enough. The shaved head leader turns toward me, takes a step and then another. He's got that toothless grin that makes me shudder, but I stand my ground. What are you doing here? He shouts. Where's the other one, the short one? Cranker steps out from the house with his slingshot loaded and aimed. The thieves all got sticks and bricks, but a slingshot is rare and Cranker's is new, and he's deadly with it. Even if they don't know that, he looks deadly. Fiercer than anyone else standing there anyway. A few of them step back just a little. First one of you thieving beggars moves is the first to lose an eye, Cranker snarls. He's curled like a bow, a tight little spring, and I fought him all my life. He's never been above biting or spitting. He'd be worth 2 of them in a fight, I bet. Me, though, they'd have no trouble with. I've got my knife, but I alone know it's only ever been used to make a baby soother. The fire behind the house rages now, sending our third man flickering across the road. A few of the thieves look at it nervous. If I didn't know it was just fire and garbage, I'd be nervous too. Looks awful big, but the leader has his doubts. It's just 2 against 4 as far as I can see, Shaved Head says, taking a step closer. We all stare at each other. Cranker's arm starts to shake from holding the heavy piece of rubber back to his ear. Which eye you want to lose? Cranker spits back. I can't see any way to end this that wouldn't be a fight. William One has pushed himself to stand up, but can't put any weight on his foot. It's 4 against 4, he says evenly. And then a thief shoves him and he sprawls back on the ground. They all laugh, but he doesn't cry out in pain, I notice. Stay down, I think. And then it happens. Yip, yip! A speeding black shadow whips out of the darkness and leaps into the group of thieves, snarling and snapping. The one-eyed dog! He grabs onto Shaved Head, tugs his arm, growling and fierce, and then another dog, one I'd never seen before, walks out of the darkness beside us. It's a huge mutt, gray and shaggy, and stands tall as my hip. It steps between me and Cranker, head down, teeth bared, chest rumbling. The thieves all spy the dog behind me, and then they turn and run down the road. I see one fall and then cry out. A girl, I think, by the shriek, and then she runs off holding an arm. The dogs chase them, worrying the thieves into the darkness. I hear another squeal and a shout, and then nothing. Stay gone, Cranker snarls, lowering the slingshot. We trot over to William One, who's standing on 1 foot. We saw your door, Cranker says. It said W1 on it. He's Cranker. I'm Man. You William One? I ask. The boy nods. Yes, I'm William One. So you saw my door. It's still standing then. Thank you for saving me. William One bends to pick up the ruined book on the road, but he can't reach it easily and winces. So I get it and hand it to him. He opens it, but all the pages are ripped out and torn up and blown away. He puts the ruined book back into his cloak. Do you have any water? He asks. His voice is awful raspy. I hand him my fat rat skin. He takes a sip and then another. He's wearing a fine black cloak, black pants, and a black shirt. He has a leather bag over his shoulder. He's rich. He must be with such nice clothes. He's about our age. He's got the same amount of fuzzy hair on his chin as Cranker and the same boy-man voice. He points at the house beside Cranker's fire, which is burning lower. The house has a sound front porch. Let's go by the fire. I have to sit down. Me and Cranker each hold him under an arm and we help him hobble over to the porch. Nice garbage man, William One says, looking at Cranker's work. He laughs a little, an easy laugh, and I like him, but I can see he's nothing like Cranker and me. He's had a softer life than us, for one thing. I can tell by his long, fine hands. Plus, he seems older than us put together. But he's not older. It's just the way he walks and talks, like he's used to being in charge. Cranker tends the fire, and we share some of our hard bread with William One. Cranker heads out for a few minutes and then comes back with 2 dead fat rats, and we skin them and set them to roast on the fire. Then we lay out our sleeping rolls and doze while dinner cooks. William unwraps himself in his cloak and groans as he sets out his leg. Cranker and me don't say it, but he needs help, and the only person I know who could help him is Granny. We talk a little, easier and easier with each other. I want to ask him about his door and where he's from, but I'm not used to new people. How'd you hurt your foot? Nothing very interesting, I'm afraid. I twisted it in the garbage pile trying to outrun those thieving beggars, did you call them? Then I limped as far as I could, looking for help. Again, thank you to you and your creatures for saving me. You're easy pickings, that's true enough, Cranker grunts. William draws his cloak closer around him. They're not our creatures, the dogs. I mean, the one-eyed dog's been tailing us since back home, but that other gray monster I've never seen before. We come from a little village, just 10 houses. 3 days from the gates by cart, I say. I'm all chatty. William looks at me. You're the first people I've talked to out here, other than the thieves, and that wasn't exactly a civilized conversation. I have so many questions to ask you, but first, can you tell me where we are? It's an odd question, and I shrug. We're in the garbage piles of Oculum City, like everyone else, I say. He's about to say something when Cranker cuts in. Dinner's ready! William falls back, silent. He seems exhausted, but his eyes are watchful. He's hungry the way he eyes the food. The fat rats are cooked, so we slice them up and offer William his share. He tastes it and then spits it out. How can you eat this? He says. He reaches into his bag and takes out a ball. It's light pink and orange like a sunset. I've never seen one like it before. What's that? I ask. William holds the ball to his nose and breathes deep. He closes his eyes. It's a small piece of home, he says, sad. Does it have a name? Cranker asks, chewing on a hank of fat rat and spitting a bone out into his hand. William looks at his bunny and frowns. It's a peach, of course, he says. I stop chewing and stare at him. Cranker chokes on his mouthful of fat rat and spits it out. Peach? I say. Cranker looks at me worried. What seemed like a normal boy a moment ago just turned into a crazy boy, we're both thinking. And we're stuck with him since we saved him in his bad foot. What do we do now? And that's where we're going to stop for today. And the next time we read, I think we might finish this book. Possibly. Might take 2 more reads. But we're so close to the ending. Thanks for listening today, guys. And remember to leave questions for the author of Oculum, Philippa. It's going to be really cool to ask her all of the questions that we have about this book. See you guys next week. Bye.